It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Wisdom Wednesday, I guess, or a Tuckheads Tuesday. We're recording this actually Tuesday later in the evening because I am traveling to Princeton tomorrow to give a speech at my alma mater. So if any of you are able to get to Princeton University's campus Wednesday night, please go ahead and check it out. It's at McCosh 50, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It'd be great to see you and meet some of you in person, if at all possible. You can always, as a lot of you do, check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. On Thursday morning, we'll talk to Greg Cosell. We'll have a new Spread the Word winner. We'll have a new sponsor confirmation email winner and a new YouTube shout out, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Speaking of shout outs, how about a patron shout out to Brandon Shoemaker? We got a new patron. I love it. Patreon.com/RT Media. We also have the greatest sports business expert in the galaxy, and we needed him today for a bunch of different reasons. It's Andrew Brandt, host of the Business of Sports podcast. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
Not only is he the host of the Business of Sports podcast, which you all must subscribe and listen to, he also does the Sunday 7 every Sunday, which I now read religiously, which this week was actually the Sunday 10. And he's a professor at Villanova, where he evidently just got done teaching a class and is right now. Andrew, I don't think I've ever seen your office before. Very nice.
Yeah, it's pretty sparse back there. I'm not in here a lot, except for my teaching day, which is Tuesday, as you referenced. We're doing this on a Tuesday night. Just had class, and as I always say, Ross, the syllabus gets thrown out, seems like every week, something coming up. And we had to dive into this Deshaun Watson thing today, where kind of simulated an interview with the Browns and Watson. It was really interesting, and a lot of opinion from my young students about this both ways.
Yeah, I bet. Check him out on social media at Andrew Brandt. I'm curious, Andrew, let's talk about that real quick. You said a lot of opinion from your students both ways. What are people in their 20s thinking about this?
Well, no surprise. The women in the class thought that the Browns lost all moral high ground, as well as the NFL, in allowing this to happen, and just sacrificing everything in the name of talent. There were people in the class that felt like, hey, Deshaun Watson throws a couple touchdowns in September, all is forgotten. The Twitter news cycle goes so fast, everybody will move on to something else. And then what I tried to teach them was, which you and I can talk about more, is the value of free agency in sports, where Deshaun Watson was not a free agent, but it sure seemed like he was. And they got an understanding of what that means when it comes to contracts.
Yeah, I think that's probably, Andrew, my first question. I like to give you a blank canvas. I don't steer you in a certain direction. I guess I just want to know your thoughts with how it all unfolded. Cleveland's out, then they're back in, and that's where he goes. By far the most guaranteed money ever. Your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Ross. A lot to unpack here. And I guess because it's my expertise, we do start at the contract. Because, listen, I've been talking to you, I've been writing, I've been podcasting, I've been talking on TV, radio about this for years. Are we going to have our first fully guaranteed long-term contract, even beyond Kirk Cousins, 3 years with the Vikings? I didn't think it'd be coming with this player. I didn't think it'd be coming with a player with 22 civil cases against him. I didn't think it'd be coming to a player with a pending NFL suspension against him. But here we are. And here's the most amazing statement. And I challenge you to say this isn't true. Due to his own misconduct, he created the perfect storm of a contract for himself. What I mean by that is The Texans didn't want him. So he creates an auction for his services, not only with the Texans, but more importantly with himself, where he could pick a team. The only true player empowerment in contracts comes from free agency. Kirk Cousins was a free agent. Deshaun Watson, Ross, was a functional free agent. And you never, ever, ever get a player like Deshaun Watson to hit free agency. Pat Mahomes will never hit free agency. Justin Herbert will never hit free agency. Joe Burrow will never hit free agency. He hit free agency basically through his own misconduct. That's what's shocking to me, that this guy has created the opportunity, the perfect storm, for the first fully guaranteed contract through his own misconduct. You can think about it, but it's true.
You know, I talked about this Sunday night, Andrew.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe it was Monday morning, and it just doesn't feel right to me. And you just expressed it perfectly. It doesn't seem right that through someone's own misconduct, they can get by far the best contract ever. And I mean, he had 3 years left on his contract,
Yeah.
Andrew. That's the thing that's so crazy about it. I guess here's the next question. Who, if anyone, is to blame? Because a lot of people, myself, it kind of sounds like you, a lot of others, a lot of people, this doesn't smell right. It doesn't feel right. But ultimately, Andrew, it's a lot of people doing what's in their best interest. Deshaun Watson, his agent, ultimately the Cleveland Browns felt like this was in their best interest. Do we blame the Browns? There were a bunch of other teams that wanted them, a bunch. Do we blame the NFL? You know, if people are upset about this or mad about this, who should they be upset or mad at?
It's a great question, and we did talk about this in class as well. It's a culture that prioritizes talent, and I think it's that simple. We prioritize talent. We can talk about Colin Kaepernick. We can talk about Ray Rice. They did not never get jobs again, I believe, because of their, in Rice's case, misconduct, in Kaepernick's case, activism. I think what those things were part of it, clearly, but they were not at the talent level at that point of their careers to merit getting the next contract. Kaepernick was beyond his prime, and Rice was certainly beyond his prime. Watson has yet to hit his prime, or maybe he is at his prime. Wow. I just think if we're going to blame anything, it's a culture that prioritizes talent above all, because that's how you win. And this is not the NFL only. Look at what allowances are made at college sports. Look what allowances are made in other sports at all levels, going up the chain from grade school. I think that's kind of where we are. I think you pose a great question. Do we blame the Browns? If it wasn't the Browns, it would have been the Saints. If it wasn't the Saints, it would have been the Falcons. If it wasn't the Falcons, it would have been the Panthers. So I do believe this, Ross. The Panthers, Saints, and Falcons weren't willing to go where the Browns went financially, and that's why he's a Brown.
So that's a good question, too. Would that bother you or worry you at all if you're the Browns and he said you're out, and then because you give him this ridiculous contract, you're back in? Is there any part of you that gives you pause that maybe he won't be happy in a few years? It's not where he really wanted to be? Or do you just think, hey, that's pro sports. We offered him the most money. He took it. That's how it works.
I think this is what went on with the Browns Brain Trust. I think this is it exactly. A discussion about, we can never get a player like this. We're never hopefully going to be drafting this high. We will have short-term pain PR-wise, but we'll have this contract for 5 years. I think that's the discussion. I just think it comes down to kind of the why people tank, why people do things they do. We will never have an ability to get a player like this. Now, yes, Deshaun Watson signed a 5-year contract with the Texans, and 6 months later he wanted out. before all the massage therapist allegations. So that would worry me. I think a bigger issue, Ross, and I've talked to a couple of people, and I think I'm going to have Joe Banner on my podcast, is the rest of the NFL. If you're an agent for a top quarterback, you want the Watson deal and more, right? You want that, and you should ask for that. And what are teams going to say? No, like I just said, no, he was a functional free agent. They're going to say, wait, what? My guy's clean. My guy's clean. No suits. So I think it's created a real problem in NFL front offices that they're going to have to deal with.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to ask you with. Do you think he just changed the NFL forever? Is this going to become like the NBA where star players are getting these 3 to 5 year fully guaranteed deals with huge money?
Question I get most often of all the questions I get going into this year is, why can't the NFL get guaranteed contracts like other sports? There's nothing in the CBA that says you can or can't guarantee. There's nothing in it's individual leverage. And the only way it would happen is an individual levering this situation. It just happened. Now, again, you ask me, you ask Joe Banner, what we're going to say is, hey, look at that situation. The Texans didn't want him. They created an auction. And when you have an auction, that's different. If pick a name, if I'm the head of the LA Chargers, and Herbert comes to me, I'm going to say, hey, sorry, but Justin Herbert, you're only negotiating with us, right? Deshaun Watson was negotiating with 5 teams. That's the difference. Again, born by his misconduct, but the truth nonetheless. That's how they're going to have to answer that. And if I'm an agent for, again, Justin Herbert, I'm going to say, my guy's clean as a whistle. You're telling me he's not going to get a fully guaranteed contract? And I'm going to say, yeah, because he's not a free agent. It's a tough negotiation.
I want to move on to Davante Adams, Andrew. And
so
I just have a lot of questions there. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers for a second. Did Aaron Rodgers sign his contract knowing Davante Adams wouldn't be there? Because if that's the case, I find that really interesting. And if he signed it and didn't know they were going to trade Davante Adams, that seems even awkward. I mean, either way, I think it's a pretty awkward situation. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, we can start with Aaron, and then we'll get to Davante, because I talked a lot about Davante, did a Twitter video that got a lot of attention. I don't know if Aaron knew or not. I think Aaron knew that there were tough negotiations because of what I'll say about Adams. Something was amiss between Adams and the organization. So much focus on Rodgers and the organization. But what about Adams and the organization? Like, the Packers don't let players like Adams get to free agency. Aaron was nowhere near free agency. That was not an issue. Aaron was more just, getting past last year, and it sounds like him wanting to play again this year. Adams, there's an issue. And why do I say that? Because from my time there 20 years ago to 10 years ago, we were extremely proactive. We had a player like Adams coming up. You go to him early, get a big contract early. They did it with Bakhtiari. They did it with Kenny Clark. What was the problem with Adams? And now people say, well, they didn't know the market. No, they knew the market. The Andre Hopkins deal was in September of 2020. That's the market. 27, whatever it was, a year. They knew the market. So either they never offered Adams a market rate deal, or they did, and there are reports they did at the last minute. I don't know if that's true. And he turned it down. So something was amiss there. And I think we focus so much on Aaron and the organization. I'm seeing a problem between Davante and the organization that resulted in a divorce.
Wow. Makes it so interesting for Aaron Rodgers moving forward, because it certainly felt like one of the reasons why he was coming back was to try to win it. And it seems like that's a lot less likely without Davante Adams. I guess we'll just have to see.
Let me say something about that. I mean, Aaron's an alpha dog. you remember we talked about maybe Bill Belichick secretly likes winning without Tom Brady when he left, to show the world I can do this without Brady. I don't know this to be true, but maybe Aaron Rodgers like, look, I can do this with any receivers, right? Maybe there's some of that with Aaron. And the most stunning statistic I've seen maybe ever, ever's a long time, but the Packers are 7-0 when when Adams hasn't played. That was shocking.
Yeah, I bet you the Packers know that stat.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think make of the Matt Ryan trade? I mean, there's so much fallout from the Deshaun Watson thing.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
It's this musical chairs. And what I talk about with Ryan was, hey, mate, wasn't he the face of the franchise? And then they go after Watson, and then he go back, and they're still trading him. It's like, it never ends well, right? It didn't end well in my day with Brett and the Packers. It didn't end well with Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. I mean, it's nice. They've given him a nice send off and they're saying how great he was, but he's not ending as a Falcon. It just never seems to end well. And the other comment I have on that, Ross, is that the Colts have now foisted $75 million of dead money on teams in the last 2 years. $34 million for Wentz with the Eagles, $41 million for Ryan with the Falcons. Like, wow, they're just taking on these teams that just went over leveraged on their quarterbacks, and they're getting them for relatively cheap. They're only paying Ryan's $25 million, while the cap number for the Falcons is $40 million. Crazy.
Last question. David Ojabo, defensive end from Michigan, projected top 15 pick, tore his Achilles at his pro day. Now they suspect he'll go in the second round, somewhere between picks 40 to 70. You were an agent, Andrew. You've consulted for a lot of agencies. Is there any of these top 10 guys? If you're a top 5 guy, top 10 guy, I mean, is there any thought to maybe don't even do the pro day?
Yeah, there has to be. I mean, I don't know how much of it was before this injury. I don't know. I guess you have to think like that. And we've gone through these injuries in bowl games, and now players are staying out of bowl games. Maybe they stay out of workouts too. Again, if you're a top pick, why do it? What's the upside? I know that's gotten a ton of media, and everyone, you probably talked to others about the reaction of scouts, but hey, dude, this is a cold business. I mean, I think you said to me once years ago, like, so Andrew, we meaning players, we're just sort of numbers on a spreadsheet to you. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it was from my perspective. Although, I'm much more player friendly than a lot of people, but it's a cold business.
No question. Check him out on social at Andrew Brandt. You got to sign up to get the Sunday 7. It's one of my favorite parts of Sundays now. And Joe Banner is going to be awesome on the business of sports. So subscribe now. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, Joe will be great as a former president of the Browns. So look forward to that later this week. Thanks, Ross.
Andrew has unbelievable skin. He's just in great shape, great health for his age, over 60. He said it before. It's probably Lumen. Lumen is the highest quality skincare products. Look, you're probably like I was, and you just do like shampoo and conditioner in one, and you don't do anything for your skin. You get to a certain age, it's like, why not work on the under eye dark circles, the wrinkles, the sun damage, the dry skin, the oily skin? Why not? Starting with Lumen is easy. All you do is take a 2-minute quiz on their website. All their products come with instructions, crazy easy. All their products are made only using natural ingredients. Look, skincare for guys should not be a complicated thing. It's very easy to use. Level up your skincare game with Lumen Skin today. Go to lumenskin.com/fumes to get your free trial of Lumen's products. That's LUMIN skin.com/fumes to get your free trial of Lumen's products. LumenSkin.com/fumes. How do you think I have such glorious skin on my rugged face? LumenSkin.com/fumes.
Tuck's Takes.
Hey, Ross, let's start today with, following up what you and Andrew talked about. Colts trading a third-round pick to get Matt Ryan.
Love it. Love it for the Colts. Love their patience. Feel like I'd much rather have Matt Ryan for a third-round pick than Carson Wentz for 2 third-round picks like Washington gave up. Washington, I don't want to say they panicked, but Washington was not willing to wait. The Colts felt like the market would shake out. And I mean, they kind of had their pick really of Matt Ryan or Baker Mayfield. So think about that. I mean, it really worked out for the Colts. They actually had options.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, on to the Saints in the same division, the NFC South. They re-signed Jameis Winston 2 years, $28 million, 21 of it guaranteed.
So, it's one of the things interesting about pro football that Andrew and I were talking about. Like, he knows they wanted Deshaun Watson. Everybody knows they tried hard to get Deshaun Watson. And if you're Jameis Winston, you got to suck it up and say, okay, I get it. Deshaun's a really good player. He's done some awesome things. I don't blame them for trying to get him, but they didn't. I like it here. I want to start somewhere. I'd rather start here where I'm familiar with people. Nobody else really wanted him. That's the other thing I want, right? I want to know who else was willing to offer him even this much money. 2 years, $28 million, $21 million guaranteed. Who else was offering Jameis Winston close to that amount of money? I would guess nobody.
Tuck's Takes.
Falcons signed Marcus Mariota and edge Lorenzo Carter.
Right. So a couple of things here. The Falcons knocked off a couple of really good comp picks by doing this. I wonder if they realize that because they could have waited till after the draft and not affected their comp picks. So that might be a faux pas by their general manager, Terry Fontenot. Secondly, Falcons are a prime candidate to draft a quarterback. Prime. I can't imagine they're going in the season with Marcus Mariota and Felipe Franks. My guess is they draft a quarterback. If Mariota falters, I think that quarterback gets an opportunity.
Tuck's Takes.
Bunch of running backs getting signed. We'll start in Tampa, where the Bucks re-signed Leonard Fournette 3 years, $21 million. For you math majors, that's $7 million a year. Seahawks re-signed Rashad Penny 1 year, $5.75 million. Bills Inc. Duke Johnson. Giants signed Matt Breida, and the Ravens re-signed Patrick Ricard.
So, love Patrick Ricard getting pretty decent money as a fullback. Rashad Penny finished the year super strong. Fournette, it's hilarious, took a visit to New England Monday. Really just, I'm sure, because he wanted to get the Bucks to up the ante. You get on a plane, you go on a visit. Jason Light knew the Patriots weren't going to give Fournette any kind of big money. However, he still felt compelled to do it. It's funny how that works.
Tuck's Takes.
And on to the receivers, and more. Let's say right tackle Trent Brown gets re-signed by the Patriots. Chargers signed Gerald Everett. Eagles, Zach Pascal. Bengals cut Trey Waynes. The Bills signed Jamison Crowder. Vikings give edge rusher Zadarius Smith $42 million over 3 years.
That's the most noteworthy one is Zadarius Smith going to Minnesota now to team up with Danielle Hunter. That's a pretty formidable edge rushing duo there, especially if Smith's back is totally healed. I think he had signed for 4 years, $35 million in Baltimore. Now he gets $42 million over 3 years. That is a big, big difference. He did the right thing by not actually signing with the Ravens.
Tuck's Takes.
One other big notable signing, it's Al Michaels gets a big bump in pay, goes to Amazon for Thursday Night Football.
Wow. Well, we've talked a lot about the broadcasters and the broadcasting musical chairs. Good for Al Michaels. I think he's 77, 3-year deal. He'll be 80. It's amazing, at the age that people can still be so productive. I think it's awesome. I mean, you never used to hear about people doing stuff like this in their late 70s, early 80s back in the day. It's pretty amazing, actually. So good for Al Michaels. That is awesome. Keeps him young. I think he and Herb Street will be an interesting match. They're not familiar with each other, but they've both been doing it a long time. Speaking of good matches, how about being able to fund your DraftKings account with cash? Just sign up in the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select Fund with Cash in the payment section, and get a digital barcode. Then just take your cash and barcode to any one of thousands of participating stores. Super easy. While you're there, pick up some DraftKings gift cards. Want to get something for your buddy for his birthday? Get something, you guys know I love to say, get it for your mom or your grandma for Mother's Day. DraftKings gift card. Definitely for your dad. DraftKings gift card. Done and done. Just visit DraftKingsGiftCard.com to find a participating store near you. March is here. Get in the game with these two awesome, fun, and easy account funding options. Let's get to an email, Bri.
Ever wanted to ask an NFL player a question? Well, here's your chance. It's time to Ask Ross.
Email address is ross@rosstucker.com. Absolutely love getting your emails because I love replying to them. Just take advantage of any sponsor. Then email me, ross@rosstucker.com, with your question for this show or Fantasy Feast or College Draft or Even Money. We get a lot of Even Money questions, and I'll read and respond to it on the show.
All right, today's question from Fred Krieger. Ross, I must be in the minority because I think the Eagles management has done a pretty good job of making the Eagles consistently competitive. Maybe it's living in New York now and not Philly, but when I tune into Philly sports talk shows, it sounds like the Philly fans and broadcasters are the biggest whiners anywhere. I thought winning a Super Bowl would make them more confident, but it didn't. It just made them more bitter when inevitably had to rebuild. So I was curious what you think of Jalen Hurts, the Philly offense for next season, and of course, the weaknesses on defense.
Good question, Fred. I think, and I predicted this forever. People said forever, all I want is for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl one time and I'll be happy. But really all that does is just raise the bar. And that's a good thing. You want to raise the bar. But people they definitely skew negative at times in Philadelphia, right or wrong. And I just think they don't have a great grasp of the big picture. You're talking about a team that's made the playoffs 4 out of the last 5 years. The only year they didn't, their quarterback basically had the yips and was the worst quarterback in the NFL. Every other year they made the playoffs. They're actually a model franchise. They're clearly one of the 10 best franchises in the NFL over the last 5 years. Clearly. Might even be top 5 if you really break it down. So, Frederick, I tend to agree with you. Now we'll see. Can they build on what they did last year? Can they get better? Obviously, it looks like Jalen Hurts will be their quarterback. How much can he improve? How much can they improve around him? A lot of questions to be asked there. A lot of shout outs to give. Pizza Boy Brewing, Sporticulture, HumanHeadNYC.com, SteakhouseSports.com, Go-Bengals.com, EvergreenEcon.com. What a Tuesday. Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and a late night, not even that late, Ross Tucker Football Podcast. We'll have Greg Cosell Thursday morning. I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.
A lot of times on the show, I mentioned DraftKings. Here's what you need to know. You got to be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. By the way, if what I was talking about included a deposit bonus, doesn't always, sometimes it does. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough, and deposit bonuses are paid out in site credit.